Welcome, everyone, to episode 80 of the RDH Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chad. Joined alongside me is my brother, Tanner. How's it hanging on this Tuesday, dude?
It's a good Tuesday. We had a good weekend of football. The Super Bowl happened. Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champs. And now we're moving on to the NBA. So, let's start with NBA trade talks. Let's go right past the Super Bowl recap into the Tanner's Corner 3. Just kidding. We will hit all the Super Bowl stuff. It's the biggest sporting event in North America, I would say, of the year. So, obviously, we're going to touch on it. But, you know, didn't go down like I think a lot of people were expecting. Maybe you were like, yeah, dude, Philly 40 to like whatever it was, 22. I got it right here and you put that in your betting sheet. So if you did that, kudos. I did not expect that, and we're gonna get into it. I know Chad has some thoughts. We all have some, because what the heck happened on the biggest Sunday of the year, Chad?
We got a ton of thoughts, and we have like no football now for like the next 6 months. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be a while, but we've got Super Bowl recap up first. That's what we're doing for those that aren't watching on YouTube. NFL free agents, talking offense today. Then we're going to go defense next episode. We'll talk about the salary cap too, because we got an updated one. Some NFL draft talk as well. We're talking about QBs there. And then, like Tanner said, his corner 3 segment for basketball. But Super Bowl recap. I mean, on what bingo card did a Cooper DeJean rookie like pick 6 touchdown, and then the Philadelphia Eagles putting up like 95 points the last 2 weeks? Because didn't they put up like 55 against Washington?
They put up a lot against Washington.
Pretty sure it was like 55.
It was at least
like
a 40 burger. It was a lot of points.
I'm pretty sure it was 55. But like,
honestly, I don't keep a track on the cap of the points. A lot of
but still, the fact that you're pushing 100 points on the last 2 games of the season, that's stellar play. But I mean, what would you have thought about? Nailed it. Yeah, so 95 points in 2 weeks, by the way. That's insane, dude. So if you're the Eagles, right? How do you even start to begin to dissect this game where it's like Saquon had 25 touches, didn't have that great of a game, right? Like the defensive line, like numbers wise, in terms of QB hurries, that stat was padded big time. But, interceptions, fumble, like the defense played out of their minds in Philly. They kept it going. And then offensively, Jalen offensively played the best on that team. And he won them that game. But my initial thoughts is it was not on my card that Mahomes was going to get blown out. And Mahomes didn't have that great of a Super Bowl when he lost the last one. You know what I mean? So it's like Mahomes has gotten blown out. It's like he went to GOAT conversations, and now everyone's like, we'll get into that. But, I mean, what did you think about the game overall? If you were a Philly fan, you loved it. If you were any other fan, you're like, this game is so boring. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people turned it off in the third. I put it on the small TV. So what did you think about it?
No, I watched it pretty much all the way through. Not like towards the end. Obviously, I'm not like paying attention, as much at that point. But like, the Chiefs had a game plan coming into this game, and that game plan was stop Saquon Barkley, because that's their most dangerous player. I think we all know that. And for the most part, I think they succeeded. He had like a couple good runs that were like 9 to 10 yards, but nothing like super crazy, nothing like against Washington like what we saw. But they forced Jalen Hurts to throw. They're like, we don't believe that you can go out there and win your team a Super Bowl, and that was dead wrong, because he went out and he had himself a day, not only throwing the ball but also running the ball. A lot of those RPOs and just broken plays that he would extend, and there was a couple of them that he would like barely. You could tell that his sense went off, his spider sense in the pocket. It just went off, and it was like, ding, time to go. And he ran, and it was just like first down, boom, pretty much every time. So they didn't spy him. They didn't really give him a whole lot of help, or they didn't really give the secondary a whole lot of help in terms of kind of guarding his, kind of unique ability. Just A.J. Brown was pretty much open, I think, a lot of that day. Devontae Smith had a good day. Obviously had that touchdown. Reminded me of the Ohio State touchdown at the end of that game in the national championship, just to cement it, because, the best way to beat the Chiefs is to not let them get close. And that's exactly what they did. So obviously a fantastic game plan for the Eagles. You can score in pretty much any single way that you would possibly want to, and every single part of your offense is dangerous. And they were able to hold the ball, and they were able to pretty much say screw you to KC's game plan. Like Saquon's not going to be involved. Who cares? We know that. We know that's what you're trying to do. We're going to go and we're going to game plan and try and win this game. You know, we're going to put it on the shoulder of our quarterback that we believe in, you know what I mean, who's been here before, who's got a chip on his shoulder at this point. So I think he played a fantastic game. I think, you know, all the Jalen Hurts slander, you know, almost, I think has been kind of put to rest now that he's won his Super Bowl and denying one of the best dynasties we've seen, at least in recent memory, you know, going back to Tom's in the early 2000s and the Cowboys in the 90s. Like, that's where it's going to sit beneath those two, in my opinion, because there's no three-peat, and they looked horrible in that game. So on the Chiefs side of the ball, that's probably the worst game I've ever seen from Patrick Mahomes. Now, I want to say,
That
too,
had to be.
I
That
want
had to be.
it, like, just by the stats, by the way that he played, the turnovers in the critical situations,
And the fourth quarter, like the padding of those stats, you know what I mean? Because you talk about it all the time on this podcast, how the garbage time. If you take away that garbage time, I mean, at the half, he had 25 yards, 26 yards. Like, that's
it's like 24-0.
and the turnovers where they were, both times on your side of the field, virtually the exact same throw both times. It's like
in your own red zone.
Mahomes got destroyed in the Super Bowl.
And it wasn't even close. I mean, you got to give a whole lot of credit to that Philadelphia defensive line. I mean, I talked to you about it yesterday, and I think the day before after it happened. But you got like Josh Sweat and like Milton Williams coming off the edge, and they look like prime Aaron Donald. You know what I mean? And they made that KC offensive line look horrible. Like, just one of the worst I've seen in recent, and just on the Chiefs, like maybe ever. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that they had kind of went out and addressed that issue after that Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, because it looked like that offensive line. It looked like Mahomes had no time to throw. It looked like he wasn't able to do the Mahomes-y type plays that he normally did. I'm surprised that KC didn't switch up their game plan on the second or third drive after seeing all that pressure. They just
Or at halftime.
Or at halftime, they just continued to sit and try and let Mahomes get out of the pocket. But even when he got out of the pocket, he made bad throws. I mean, that second interception, I think it was to Zach Bond, not the pick six. He was out of the pocket. He was scrambling to the right side of the field, and he throws it across his body, and he just doesn't see Zach Bond. Like, that's all on Mahomes. There is no, like, Zach Bond, hell of a play. Like, hell of a play, just being there and just being, like, invisible. Hell of a season, indeed. He's just, like, I don't know how he just like conjured John Cena in this moment to become invisible, because Mahomes didn't see him at all. And he was like standing right in front of the receiver, and he just forced the ball. And we don't see Mahomes do that in the Super Bowl. I didn't realize John Cena was in attendance. So I was telling you on the phone the other day, Philadelphia they just made the game plan. Like, they just created the script. If you want to go and win a Super Bowl, they literally just told everyone, all right, we're just going to go draft like the best defensive players in the draft every single year. It doesn't really matter where we're picking. It's like, yeah, back-to-back years, we're going to go get the best defensive tackle in the class. And then, you know, in the next year, we're going to go and get the top 2 cornerbacks in the draft. Oh, yeah. By the way, a couple of those guys who are now on our defense were playing for the 2-time national champion, Georgia Bulldogs. I think that's a good recipe for success. Those guys know how to win, don't they? I think so. Maybe if they had a quarterback, they might have gone a little further this year too. So it's they just, you know, it's really impressive what Philly has done with a whole lot of young talent. And, you know, you think like, how is this team not in salary cap hell right now? Well, it's because you look at that defense and they're all so young.
And we're talking about salary cap today too, right? Like, we're going to hit that in a couple segments. I will tell you right now, the Philadelphia Eagles will give it away. They have almost $25 million free. That's 18th in the league in salary cap. So that means they have money to spend, but keep going.
The only guys, and great segue into that, the only guys that are really paying on that defense is Darius Slay, who's on his way out. Obviously, they have 2 young corners, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. Obviously pretty good. One of them got a pick 6 in the Super Bowl, and I didn't even see the other one with Quinyon Mitchell, so that means he had a good day. So Zach Bond is the other guy that you paid, and pretty much that's it. You got a guy or two on the defensive line, but they're going to be gone in a year. You know what I mean? And a lot of, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, these guys are young. These guys are absolutely super young, and they're still on their rookie contract. So the window is not only open, but as big as that, my front door open for the Philadelphia Eagles, because they don't got to pay anybody, and they have salary cap room, and they've already paid A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, and I think Devontae Smith is probably coming up next, so he's probably not going to get number one receiver in the NFL money, I would imagine. So they're probably going to get a nice little payday for him too, and he's going to stay in Philadelphia. Saquon, obviously cheap. He's a running back, and that offensive line, they went out and they got him this year. And I don't know if a lot of them are 1-year deals. So obviously,
we have to talk about the offensive line real quick too, because I don't know if we'll talk about the Eagles offensive line, but they dominated. And let's give a shout out to the stat that they had on the screen where they were 100 pounds heavier than the Chiefs offensive line. And like, that's big boy football. And you talk about it on this podcast about, you really like your favorite type of offensive linemen or maulers, those big guys that if they get out on the outside, good luck, right? Like, it's hard to move those type of guys. And so that Philly offensive line just outplayed Kansas City's defense. I mean, they didn't touch Jalen Hurts practically the entire game. On the other side of the football, you saw Mahomes literally not be able to take a snap without having someone in his face in less than 2 seconds. And then when someone was not in his face, he was worried about someone getting in his face because they were very close, which they were, which caused those bad throws.
I mean,
but keep going.
How many times did you see Mahomes step up into the pocket and there wasn't a pocket to step up into? It's just an instinctual thing that he, obviously most quarterbacks always do. When that pressure is coming from the sides, you can step up into the middle. But the thing about that D-line is, Milton Williams and Josh Sweat were getting around the corners pretty much every single time. But Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, they're not going to move to let you kind of step up in that pocket, and they're just going to collapse.
And so the double teams on those guys, right? They were going on the whole games because the Chiefs defensive line double teamed Carter. Like, they double teamed him the entire game. So that freed up the guys on the outside.
Yeah, and the Philadelphia Eagles were only rushing 4. They didn't blitz a single time in the Super Bowl, which is amazing. Not once. They didn't blitz one time, and they got home like every time. So
every time.
I don't know what they're feeding those guys over there in Philly, but keep doing it because that's grown man football. That's
cheesesteaks.
That's yes. I give me a cheesesteak. I would like one of those. I don't want to be that big though. That's kind of crazy. If it just boom, you know what I mean. So,
dude, but a Philly cheesesteak in Philly, I can attest those things are unreal. Just
yeah.
I mean, walk up in the old school diner. You know what I mean? You're in downtown Philly. You look at it and you're like, that place is greasy. I need to get in there. And you walk in the line. The guy's like, "What do you want?" And you're like, Philly cheesesteak loaded up.
He's like,
"What
hurry
kind
up."
of cheese? Yeah, whiz. Give me the whiz. Okay, good call. And then you go up and you go upstairs and you got famous people on the place is sick. Anyway,
exactly. Like Bradley Cooper, dude. He has his own cheesesteak restaurant over there in Philly. Big Philly fan. And he cooks it too, which is kind of cool.
That's something that the Northeast has some. Yeah, I love that area. Absolutely love that area. Not going to give away my gem though. Can't do that. So all right, we'll move on from kind of the Super Bowl talk. But what does this mean? Everybody thought that the standard was Kansas City, right? That's what everybody thought going into this game. The spread did not move the entire game, 1.5. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs moving forward, they are in a situation that's definitely not as friendly as the Eagles. You know what I mean? Like, the Chiefs have definitely a lot older guys. The Eagles, I mean, they're a couple million more in terms of salary cap. They're not too far apart there. But the Chiefs have a guy by the name of Patrick Mahomes, right? And what's going to happen next year in the AFC, right? Like, what's going to happen next year in the AFC? What's going to happen in the NFC? Because the NFC, Detroit's going to be coming. There's going to be a lot of guys coming on each side, right? But what does this mean for the Chiefs moving forward? If you're a Chiefs fan, Dynasty's never been done in or three-peat's never been done in football. Mm-hmm. What do you think about next season, going into next season? I mean, you still have Mahomes. You made it to a Super Bowl. I mean, the worry meter's probably not too high, right? Like, it's probably not too high, but at the same time, in the back of your mind, you got to be like, Kelsey's kind of getting up there. You know what I mean? And we're going to hit it in the free agent segment. DeAndre Hopkins, a free agent. Like, Xavier Worthy, is he going to be the guy? I get it that, the Chiefs' number one wide receiver got injured, so they're probably, betting on him to get back. But what do you think? What does this mean for the Chiefs moving forward with this blowout in the Super Bowl?
It means I think that the Chiefs defensively were not as good as we thought they were. And I think you look at Philadelphia has kind of done this to a lot of different teams this season. But you really did not have a guy that stepped up on that defensive side of the ball pretty much anywhere. I think, Bolton, he had a good game. He had an okay game, a couple good tackles in open space. Chris Jones was pretty much non-existent. Trent McDuffie was pretty much non-existent the entire day going up against A.J.
Jamal
Brown.
didn't play well.
A.J. Brown had a very good day, had a touchdown and a couple big receptions in key pivotal moments. So McDuffie, obviously he's going to continue to be a young guy that you're going to continue to lean on moving forward if you're, on the Chiefs defense. But you got to get more guys in there. You got to get more on that defensive line, and in the secondary. There's all around, like Justin Reed played a well, but again, they just need pieces. These guys aren't, you look at that Philadelphia defense and you're like, all right, that's the top of the line. You know what I mean? That's what every team is probably dreaming of in a defense. A bunch of young guys, don't got to pay any of them, and they're all good. So obviously the Chiefs need to continue to draft well on the defensive side of the ball. I think that they've got, with Xavier Worthy, they got a young stud. Obviously Marquise Brown is over there, and the guy who got injured this year.
Isn't it Rice?
Yeah, Rashee Rice.
Thank you. I couldn't remember his first name. I know it was R. Rice. I couldn't remember the first
and
name.
Travis Kelce is a pass catcher. We'll see if he's going to continue to stay in Kansas City. He's been there for a little while. But I think the offense is just fine. You got the offensive line. They had a really bad day. So obviously you're going to need to go back to the drawing board, maybe get a couple guys and maybe kind of rethink pretty much what you're doing offensively. More beef. Just some guys in there that can, just not let Josh Sweat and Milton Williams do that, and it's just, those were two names that you come into that game, you're like, those guys, you probably not a lot of bets on those guys, you know what I mean? Unless you're a diehard, and if you are, good job. That was a hell of a call. But it's kind of after that Tampa Super Bowl, very similar kind of what we need to do moving forward, although it wasn't to this extent that Mahomes got destroyed, you know what I mean? But it shown that they're vulnerable, they are weak, and they can, their offensive line can collapse if you kind of play your cards right. So the formula is out there now for the Chiefs, so we'll see kind of what they look like at the beginning of next season. But I expect them to draft offensive line and just defense, because I don't think really anything. I don't think you get skill positions if you're the Chiefs. I don't think you go out and get like a running back. You have Pacheco, he's back, he's coming off injury. You didn't expect a whole lot of him this season, and Kareem Hunt did a nice job in his stead. So you got skill positions, you got guys that you've gone out and spent money in free agency to get. Now you just gotta, hopefully they're healthy moving forward. That's a big issue. And just get some more guys in that defense. Just overall, I think you could use a couple more defensive backs and a couple more big body maulers down there. Like literally just find and I was telling Chad this, but find the biggest guy in the draft class and draft him. just whoever weighs the most, just draft him and put him on the D line. And you're like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? So
just a plug.
Just plug them right in there. Like that's, if I was an NFL team, I would just get the biggest defensive lineman in the draft and just sit them right there. So obviously,
yeah, just plug them right there. Well, that makes sense. That all makes sense, right? That everything you're saying with bringing in more guys, and the thing about the Chiefs is that we'll talk about it in just a second in terms of free agents and everything there in the salary cap, but they're not looking bad in the salary cap, and who the guys that they're paying, right? That it's Kelce, it's Mahomes, it's Chris Jones. You have those guys that are already locked up, and those are the ones that have been paid, right? Mm-hmm. So the Chiefs are very, very good at drafting too. They're very good at it. So they pick, the second to last pick in the first round. So it's like, they don't pick last. The Eagles do because they won the Super Bowl. So it's like, somehow a top guy is going to get there. They always do. They always fall to Buffalo. They always fall to Baltimore, always to the Chiefs, to the Eagles. So for me, I think the Chiefs will draft well. I think they'll add some more guys there. And then I think that they need to go out there and make, somewhat of a splash. I don't think they need to make a big one, but they have some decisions to make in terms of bringing guys back. Like, did DeAndre Hopkins really show you enough this season? Like did he show you enough? He had that big drop, but he also had a catch in a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl, right? So, and that's not a low tag. But I think the Chiefs bring in a couple more guys, and then I think they're going to be just fine because again, they have Mahomes in his prime.
Yeah, I didn't even literally mention DeAndre Hopkins, which is crazy. Like,
And he's I mean, he's not even 30. He almost had 4 Super Bowls by the time he was 30, Mahomes. He's got 3. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, now we can go 30 to 40 and see what happens here. So I mean, hey, Eagles, I think it's pretty obvious what they I mean, you kind of alluded to it the whole episode. They have guys on the edge, but they don't have that big name. Right? On the offensive side, they are absolutely loaded. They don't need to add literally anybody else on the offensive side.
I don't think so.
Not a single person. Maybe a RB2, like maybe, but you don't want to take Saquon out of the game. If I'm the Eagles, I know exactly what I'm going to do to make my team unstoppable and to make me get to that next level. It is going out there and signing a Myles Garrett, going out there and signing a top tier defensive end, a guy that is you are going to pay. I know you said they don't pay anybody on the defensive line, but take advantage of that, right? You have a lot of these guys on on rookie contracts right now. So get a guy like Myles Garrett who wants out of Philly, who wants out of Cleveland. Get a guy like, I don't know. You've got so many different guys, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. But like that, for me, if I'm the Eagles, that's what they do right there. And then bring in a veteran cornerback to continue to help the rookies progress, and then potentially some safety help, and then always bring in more linebackers. But you can't say anything about Zach Bond. But for me, if I'm the Eagles, I literally just draft defense. I draft an offensive lineman for depth. You already have Kenny Pickett sitting back there, even though he may be up in free agency. But you can sign another QB late in the round. But for me, Philly is in the best spot in the entire league with the contracts that they have and the amount of salary cap that they have available. All right. Good segue, NFL free agent talk. We're just doing offense, like I said. I'm going to start, toward the end. I'm not going to go at the very big free agents. So this one's interesting. We're going to start off 6.5 milli. Tyrone Smith is a free agent. That would be one that would be interesting because it's a bit of a price tag, but that's a guy that at left tackle did not necessarily play the best. But if you're in need of a left tackle, you'll take a veteran Tyrone Smith. Tyler Conklin, the tight end there. You have Marquise Brown, who is up, that we were talking about. He is up. Aaron Jones is up. Taylor Heineke is up. This is the one that I'm really interested in. Ronnie Stanley is up for Baltimore, the left tackle. He carries a $7.5 million price tag, so I think he's going to get an increase. Robert Woods is a $7.6 million price tag. He's available for Houston. The best State Farm commercial of the year, Jacoby Brissett, quarterback, $8 million. He's going to be available. Trey Lance is available, 8.5. Not sure. I think that one will go down a little bit. Austin Corbett, the center for Carolina, 8.7. Zach Wilson. Got Zach Wilson up in Denver. See, that's what I'm saying. You got these young quarterbacks.
My goodness, Zach Wilson, like generational talent. Generational. Just
oh man. James Daniels, you got the guard for Pittsburgh. He's 27, so that's going to be a contract. Mike Williams, he's carrying $10 million. Sam Darnold. The best center in the league, I would argue, Ryan Kelly is up for the Colts. DeAndre Hopkins carries a $13 million price tag. He's up. Brandon Scherf, he's 33, carries 16.5 milli. Cam Robinson, left tackle. Brandon Scherf was a guard, by the way. Cam Robinson, left tackle, 29. One of the best in the game from Alabama. Deontay Johnson, this is crazy. He has an $18.3 million cap hit.
Bro, I don't know. Is he bad now? Does he suck? Is he bad at football? Because every team that gets him cuts him.
I mean, Deontay Johnson back in the day for Pittsburgh was disgusting, but going to Baltimore, I haven't seen anything. And then last one on this page is Zach Martin for the Dallas Cowboys. So that one's up. So real quick, let's go back to the next page. Just wanted to kind of lay that out there. So if you're a team that's in need of offensive linemen, right? You have some key veterans here. I don't know if Ronnie Stanley is going to be available, right? I don't know if Brandon Scherf is going to be available. I don't know if they're going to let Ryan Kelly walk, right? But you have some stupid good offensive lineman free agents coming up and some pretty solid, I would say, wide receivers in terms of veterans. I mean, Do any of those guys interest you? Obviously, some of the offensive linemen do, but do any of
Yeah,
those guys
let's
interest you?
let's start on, obviously, I think the biggest one, or at least the biggest name, is probably Sam Darnold, right? What happens with Sam Darnold? Does he stay in Minnesota? Is he, did he do enough, I think, to secure the bag on the Minnesota Vikings? And now it's hard because it never really looked like Darnold was elite. You know what I mean? Like, he never got to the level that you were like, I can trust him. You know what I mean? Because towards the end of the year, and we talked about a lot, he definitely fell off. And a lot of the reason they lost those games was because Sam Darnold didn't have the best games. Just in general, a lot of his passes were uncharacteristic throughout, the previous games in the season. And he just didn't really look like himself in that offense. Offense was able to move the ball, but it came down to situations where he would either kind of overthrow a guy or make a mistake that would put the offense back and have to like settle for a field goal or a fourth down attempt, right? So if you're a Minnesota fan, do you continue with this? Like, do you want Sam Darnold back? You signed Daniel Jones in the in the regular season after the Giants cut him, and you also have a young JJ McCarthy who you kind of pretty much drafted to be your future, right? And this whole situation with Darnold was unexpected. So what are you thinking about this Darnold thing? Because I really don't know where to pin it. You know what I mean? You want to run it back?
Running back, easy. I mean, he the record, like
Yeah.
they almost were the number 1 seed in the NFC. Yes, absolutely bring him back. Now, the big question, right? What does he want? Like that's the big question, because in terms of salary cap, Minnesota's at top 10 right now. They have 58 million available. So it's like Sam Darnold's agent's probably like, hey, do you know what I mean? Because like, could this be the last time that Sam Darnold like gets paid? Technically, it could, right? Like if he goes out and gets paid this contract, and then all of a sudden just shits the bed and doesn't play well, then maybe he's not going to get paid anywhere near what he would have gotten paid in this contract. So I don't know what his side is trying to do. I don't know if his side is trying to go for a multi-year deal. I think the Vikings are like, dude, we drafted our guy. Like, I think you just alluded to it, but then this guy fell in their lap. For me, dude, look at all of the success that these rookie quarterbacks have had coming off of injury and just throwing them into an offense. Not a ton. Not a ton. So for me, I don't know how much his injury impacted. I mean, it was a bad injury, season-ending injury in the preseason, so he wasn't out there running drills, but he was in the facility, so he was gaining all of that, you know what I mean? But he wasn't running drills. The game speed is not technically there yet. In the preseason, he was doing pretty good, but then the injury happened, right? So for me, I'd run Sam Darnold back. Honestly, if I can, I bring Sam Darnold back for 2 years, and it goes this year, and that contract is completely or 3 years max, and that contract is completely front loaded to where I can get out of it year 2. Like, and if it doesn't work for some reason, then you got to go with JJ McCarthy being the guy year 2 or year 3, because you don't want to be sitting there on that dead salary cap money. But absolutely 100% bring him back if I'm Minnesota. I haven't seen enough to be like, nah, I'm going to just throw away that season, because you can't tell me that you cannot see the Minnesota Vikings being a playoff team next year, and you can't tell me you couldn't see the Minnesota Vikings also missing the playoffs next year. Right? Like, that's both those scenarios could completely happen just because of how good that division is, dude. Like, right? You can get the 4th seed in that division and somehow maybe make the playoffs, right? Like, that division was so good.
I mean, yeah, through like 6 weeks, that's kind of how we were talking about it with the Chicago Bears, but obviously, God intervened and said that he doesn't like the Bears anymore.
Chicago got a lot better, though.
They did.
Chicago got a lot better with that coach.
And Caleb's going to continue to get better.
Exactly. But yeah, and then the biggest one for the Cowboys, you know what I mean, is Zach Martin. Like, that's huge, because that's a guy that's had more Pro Bowls than holding penalties in his career, right? That's a guy that you cannot replace on that side. And Dallas at times this season had a weak offensive line. Left tackle Cam Robinson, I have to hit on him because he's like one of the biggest left tackles. There's no way Minnesota let him walk. Like, there's absolutely no way he walks. That is a franchise left tackle at 29 years old and a young 29-year-old. Brandon Trade, that's an interesting one for Jacksonville because that's a big price tag at 16.5, right? And that's a guy that if you're like, we can draft an offensive lineman in the second or third round and start him, and then have 16.5 available to play with, right? So that's something that would be interesting. And Jacksonville needs a lot of help.
Yeah.
So for me, if you're a team in that rebuilding phase, you're not going to bring back a lot of these guys,
Exactly.
right? DeAndre Hopkins, I'm not sure, man. Ryan Kelly, there's no freaking way he's going anywhere. And then, Mike Williams. We'll see what happens with Mike Williams.
I feel like he's gone. I think he's going to be one of those Robert Woods, Odell Beckham kind of guys that kind of floats around a couple teams. Because
and Woods is still there.
Exactly. Like
we just talked about.
And he's it's just going to be one of those guys because I don't think Mike Williams is kind of at his peak of his career anymore. Just from watching him play, he's had a couple good routes, but that's kind of been it. You know what I mean? He hasn't really been that guy since he played in I guess they were probably LA at the time, so the Chargers, but he's still good.
Yeah,
he's still a good number 2 guy to sit.
You remember him and Keenan?
Gross, man. I mean, they had the complete package. They had 2 completely opposite types of wide receivers on either side, and it was like, all right, cool. Herbert could do whatever he wanted in that Staley offense. I mean, it felt like he was throwing for like 350 a game, at a point.
Easily. Then get ready. We have the rest of the free agents are all wide receivers. So this is a loaded free agent wide receiver class. Interesting here. I didn't know this. Did you know how much Dallas was paying Brandon Cooks?
Is it
Just take a guess.
Is it double digits in terms of millions?
Oh yeah.
Let's say 15 million then.
19.8.
That's pretty impressive.
That's insane that Brandon Cooks got that much money.
Well, the wide receiver market's pretty up there too. Isn't it? It's like 40 million a year now, right?
It is. To be fair, a third wide receiver, and hey, before he went to the Cowboys, he had a lot of success, not a ton toward the end there. But anyway, another bad contract by Dallas. Chris Godwin, that's a massive one. I didn't realize Chris Godwin was free agent.
He's up. He's got to come back, right? He had like the best year of his career this year until he got injured.
He got injured, dude.
Until he got injured,
yeah. And then it's kind of the same song and dance. So unfortunately, right? That's a 20 million. Mr. Amari Cooper is carrying a $20 million tag. Did he do enough to come back to Buffalo?
I don't think so.
I don't think so for $20 million.
He wasn't even the number 1 after he went over there. Like he was clear. Like he was the one who did the touchdown pass to Josh Allen from himself. You know what I mean? That was cool. That was a fun moment. That's like the only thing I've seen though. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't there like pretty much at all during the playoffs. It was some another guy. So that Josh does. So I don't. Amari Cooper is at the point where I think he's a veteran wide receiver. He's not going to be the number 1 guy anymore. He's going to go into locker rooms and kind of get that veteran presence, and I think that's where he's at.
Yeah, and then another wide receiver is going to be Keenan Allen at $20 million, and then T. Higgins,
he's got
21, 21, and then Stephon Diggs at 22.5. So before we jump on these wide receivers, think about that. The Texans are losing over $30 million in Robert Woods and Stephon Diggs, which means they can also go make a massive splash. But we'll look at how much they have in terms of salary cap. But Keenan Allen, that's an interesting one.
That's awesome.
Because did Rome Odunze do enough for you? For me,
maybe. He looked pretty good. There were moments.
For me, yeah. But at the same time, are you going to take away weapons from Caleb Williams? Now, Ben Johnson, what does he bring with that team? Mm-hmm. What in the heck is he going to bring with that team? Does Keenan Allen even fit in to a Ben Johnson type system? I know DJ Moore does.
That's a question. Yeah.
I know Rome Odunze does, but I don't know about Keenan Allen. And then T. Higgins. I mean, I get Stephon Diggs is there, but T. Higgins is 4-5 years younger than Diggs. Mm-hmm. He's going to get paid the most out of the free agents. But
if you're Houston, get rid of Diggs, get rid of Woods. You gotta go get T. Higgins. You have to. Like that's either him or Keenan Allen. Like that, you have to go and do that because Sorry, Diggs. Like, no
Or
offense.
Godwin, dude.
Or
Godwin.
Like one of those three.
Godwin,
I don't
come
think Godwin. I feel like Godwin. I don't know who he's gonna leave. He's been a Buccaneer like his entire life. You know what I mean? I feel like he's at least his football career, NFL career. So like I don't know. I would expect him to stay there. Their guy. The Bucks are good at paying their players. I think that they're pretty good at doing that.
And what do you think about Stephon Diggs? Like, what do you think? Like his
think
kind of range,
he's-
and he's the number one. He has like 21 million,
He's like a number 1B at this point.
but he got injured, dude. Like that's
He did.
that's the hard part.
But he hasn't done a whole lot is the only thing. Like he has been injured like 100%, but even when he was in, like he had like meh. He was okay, you know what I mean? But he wasn't like the focal point of that offense. And at no point was he during that season. I mean, obviously his Buffalo days are behind him, but if he's just going to go somewhere and, request a trade in 2 years, why would you sign him?
Sorry, I was looking at this list and I realized I'm like, where the heck is Jamar Chase? Like, why is Jamar Chase not on this list? Because Jamar Chase is technically a free agent as well, but they can pick up his 5th-year option.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, wait a second. Could the Bengals lose both of them in one offseason? I know we
There's
were
no-
talking about that
yeah,
during the
there's
regular
no
season,
way.
but that's why you have that option, the 5th-year option. Anyway, dude,
T. Higgins immediately goes to a team because he's going to get
Number
the
one.
he has to get the most money.
If Calvin Ridley
Him
got
or,
paid,
him or Godwin has to get the most money. I would assume
T.
T.
Higgins. Yeah. If Calvin
Yeah.
Ridley got paid, T. Higgins is getting paid. No offense.
You can't do that. You can't do that when I'm about to start.
Sorry, it's
and
true.
I know. But Diggs, I don't think you can bring him back to Houston just because that big price tag. And with Houston, I mean, they have kind of
sucked.
proven that they have some guys there that worked, right? Like Tank Dell,
Mhm,
right? Nico Collins. Like
mhm.
in Houston's a team that's young and it'll build through the draft anyway. So for me, I don't think Diggs comes back. But some pretty loaded free agents in terms of wide receivers, and that's some solid offensive free agents. The next episode, we will hit defensive free agents, but now we will go to the NFL salary cap segment of this episode because you're going to realize how screwed your team really is. Because you're going to be shocked at who is the last place in this one. Also, I use sporttrack.com for all this kind of stuff. Just unbelievable website, sports website. So
Before you get into it too, I'm curious because isn't every year, and you might not know the answer to this question, but every year there's like a salary cap like adjustment throughout the league in terms of how much you can spend and stuff like that. Does that factor into this currently? Because I know that starts on like the new year of the NFL, which is like I don't know, it's not now. It's in like I don't know when it is. It's down the line, but obviously before anything really starts up again. But is that factored in at all?
I would assume so, but at the same time, like if you're talking hockey, it's always like when you listen about or when you're listening about it, it's like the salary cap is going to increase, but you never actually hear it increase. You know what I mean? But obviously it increases in the NFL with how much just look at what Patrick Mahomes signed for then versus now, right? Like
10-year deal?
NFL increases so much. But yes, I would assume that that's already played into it. And if it's not, it would have to be before draft time
Mhm.
because you have to have all your finances in check before you go to the draft.
Yes.
You ready to jump into this salary cap? This is pretty crazy.
A lot of numbers. I'm a numbers guy.
A lot of numbers here. Is YouTube ready for this? We got it going up on the old YouTube there. All right. Number 32. This is going to shock you. Minus 60 million in salary cap. Okay. Brand new head coach Kellen Moore, the New Orleans Saints.
Yeesh. What's that from? Who are they signing?
Who should they have signed?
Who are they signing? Where's
I was
that
like, what?
coming from?
And then here's the best part, right? At number 31. Yeah, here's for you.
Is this the
The
Cleveland,
Cleveland
Yeah.
Browns.
Well, that one makes
minus
sense. That one makes sense.
$34 million. Now here's the thing. The Saints, no damn clue what's going on. I have no idea who they're paying on that team. It has to be
It's Cam Jordan.
Cam Jordan still has to be getting paid.
Lattimore.
Alvin Kamara has to be getting
I think
paid.
Lattimore's probably still getting paid on that team.
Lattimore's getting paid.
Even though
They
he's not
had they had the left tackle there forever, Teron Armstead, if I'm not mistaken.
Honey
He
Badger's
was
still
getting
there?
paid. Who?
Honey Badger, he's still there?
Dude, Honey Badger's like me on Madden. I just pick him up every
Like,
season.
where is he?
He's just chilling there in free agency.
Where is he?
You know what I mean? He wouldn't necessarily be like a long-term deal. And then on the defensive side of the ball, like other than Lattimore, I don't think they're paying a whole ton of people. I don't know if they paid Davenport. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that they paid Davenport. So I don't know. But I think that this is also right now, right? This is as of like right now or as of a couple weeks ago. This is not going to happen into the draft. Like you can't, minus 60. Like
You're gonna have to cut some guys, man.
you just can't do that. And then you got Cleveland, but again, this is when your cap can be in cap hell because you have the whole offseason figured out.
That is like single-handedly because of that Deshaun Watson trade.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. As soon as that goes away, now the dead cap associated with that. That's what happened with Dallas when they let Tony Romo go and kept Dak. They had that dead cap going forever. So Cleveland's going to be in that situation.
Unless they get avoided,
depending on
the contract.
Well, depending on that and the whole medical thing, right? Because I'm pretty sure that's still under investigation, right?
If it gets voided.
Yeah, 30. Seattle Seahawks minus 19. Buffalo Bills at 29 minus 17.
Really?
Miami at minus 15. That's really interesting with Miami because you think about the Tyreek Hill thing and you're like, well, we could be above water pretty easily if you just let Tyreek go. But it's hard for me to let like a Tyreek Hill go, right? That's tough. Atlanta sitting there at minus 10.
It's not too bad.
But that's also because like Kirk's going to be like they're going to figure out how to get rid of that. Dallas right there at number 26 minus 5.
Not too bad.
Dallas is going to I would assume Dallas lets DeMarcus Lawrence walk.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume I don't think that they re-sign Micah yet. I don't think that they do. If they let Micah walk, they're stupid. Dallas is stupid if they let Micah walk.
It'd be worse.
But I think that they let DeMarcus Lawrence go. That's big time. Brandon Cooks, we already talked about it. That's also big time. Right there, those guys are literally top 20, top 30 free agents in terms of like AAV.
What about,
right? So right there, that's going to free up a ton for the Cowboys.
What about Sam Williams? Where's he at? Is he on his 4th year?
He's got to be. I mean, he's got to be.
He's getting real close, and I haven't seen him like ever in a Cowboys.
But I was going to say, but the whole injuries thing, like that's a whole nother story, and I don't know how
contracts and stuff.
Dallas is going to go like you said a couple days ago. They're going to go take another freaking Tarko Charlton just randomly.
Yeah.
So Dallas can get out of that, which is interesting. They could actually make a splash in free agency. They won't, but they could. Tampa Bay minus 3. Houston's there at minus 2, but they're going to get right. And those are the only teams, 24 and down. Those are the only teams that are negative in the salary cap right now. Everybody else is positive. You got Baltimore at 7, New York Jets at 8 million. Then it jumps up to Kansas City at 15. Carolina's got 19. Indianapolis has got 24 million. That's a lot of that's going to go.
Good.
Yeah, and that's going to go to re-signing their center as well. Philly's right there at 18 with 24.496. Jacksonville's at 31. That's what I'm saying with Jacksonville. If they let a guy go like a veteran offensive lineman, then that jumps up even higher. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Y'all don't get this. No one gets this. The Rams, 16, $35 million, and they're going to let Cooper Kupp go. They're going to let him walk. Like
it's going to go up.
And they're going to get and they are not, the Rams are not afraid to sign people. Then we have Denver at 15 with 36 million, that's interesting because Sean Payton's not afraid to go make a splash. That's where I could see a guy like T go.
That would be good. I mean,
that's where I could see a guy like T go, dude.
Him and Bo, it'd be kind of nice.
Him and T Higgins and Bo Nix.
Bo T. Tebow?
Say that
Tebow?
3 years ago.
Tebow? Tim Tebow?
Oh, and not to mention Debo. Debo is
also
out there.
Debo. I was just saying, T Higgins, Bo Nix, Tebow, kind of.
Oh, you said Tebow.
Also Debo.
Oh, don't bring that back. Don't bring that back.
No, but it's the Broncos Tebow on the Broncos. Yeah, like I'm just saying the return of Tebow in a different way.
I love Tim Tebow, but the whole Tebowing thing just that's ingrained in my head, bro. I just can't get that out, man.
It's gonna happen.
Dude, I was I was a camp director, and there'd be kids just Tebowing in the middle of the ice in a hockey game, and I'm like, what are we? What the fuck are we doing?
It's a good
Like,
era of sports. I
what
enjoyed
are
that
we-
time.
And planking,
And planking.
and planking, dude.
I know.
I was a camp director when there
remember.
was planking and Tebowing,
Oh,
and
trust
not to
me.
mention the biggest one of all, the dab. Like I saw
Dab
all
came a
that.
little bit
I can't
after.
tell you. Do what?
So the dab came a little bit after. Was the dab before
Yeah,
the whip
but I
or
can't
after
tell
the
you.
whip? In the nay.
Yes, yeah. I was there for Soldier Boy too. Soldier Boy.
I just remember you planking on a roof. It's like,
On
what
the
are you-
roof?
I was like, guys, what are you doing? it's like 6-7 p.m. Like, oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah, we were just chilling on the roof. We
You
got in
kids
trouble
was-
for that one, and
Yeah,
then we
you
got
did.
then we went to the next door neighbor's house. We got in trouble there too. Yeah, never got away with a lot of stuff since as a kid, man.
Planking.
Oh, man.
That's athletic.
That's
That's athletic.
that's good stuff.
You
That's
gotta
good, clean family
engage your
fun there.
core.
All right, Green Bay, 37 million available.
That's
Ooh.
real nice. That's and after paying Jordan Love too. Let's not forget that they have no number one wide receiver. They
That's
already
a
paid
team.
Josh Jacobs.
That's a team.
And
That's
they
a
got a lot of
team
young
that
talent.
that's a team that I'm looking at that looks real good there. Pittsburgh 37, San Francisco at 43 million. How?
I don't know how that's possible.
How?
I don't know.
They've paid everybody. Like how do they have that much money?
Brock Purdy.
True. That's actually very true.
That's fine.
Cincinnati sitting there at 44, but that's going to go real quick if they sign T and if they I mean realistically like do the Bengals let T walk and are just like, "Hey,
I think so.
here you go, Jamar." You know what I mean? Like is that
yes.
kind of the game
Yes,
plan?
You have because you can draft. It's been proven that you can draft a number one wide receiver just in the draft and get him for 4 years for cheap. Like there's a lot of guys we've talked about them on this podcast that are going to be available. And guess what? Cincinnati didn't make the playoffs, so they have a good draft pick. So I think that's going to be a first or second round pick for the Cincinnati Bengals.
That's a good point.
So T Higgins can just be like, there's no leverage. They have like no leverage on T right now, or T has no leverage on them right now to get a deal done.
Aside from how stupid good he is.
He's good, and the offense is clearly better when he's in. And same draft class. I think it's Joe Burrow. At least maybe. I think it is. It's either one before or the same. But a second round guy, like you don't have to pay him first round money. So like I don't know. I like it. I get him out of there. I think obviously your future is Shamar Chase. We know that he's the Triple Crown winner for a reason. And I'm not saying that T Higgins is like a plug and play in that offense. You know what I mean? You put anyone in there, he's going to have that success. But a lot of good wide receivers coming out nowadays. You really don't have to pay a number 2 that much money.
Yeah, and like you said, you can get him in the draft, and we'll see exactly what happens in the draft. And we got a ton of draft talk today. We're talking quarterbacks. We will definitely hit wide receivers though. New York Giants sitting there at 47 million. That's interesting.
Expected.
Yeah, but they need they're gonna. That's a team we're gonna talk about in just a sec with the quarterbacks. Tennessee at 49. Get ready for this. Get ready for this. Remember a team that's really good that I haven't said yet?
No one who won the Super Bowl?
No. I've said Philly.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. They were at 18. They
Okay.
have like 24.5 million. So that
You
they'll
haven't said
be all right.
Washington. You didn't say Washington.
Yeah, I did. They were
Did you?
two spaces. No, I haven't. I have not said them yet. Don't make me give it away. We were at number 8. Here we go. The
Okay.
Detroit Lions, dude.
Oh, I thought you already said that. I'm just mixing them up.
$55 million available. And then the other
That's
team in that
crazy.
division, Minnesota, at 58 million available. So
God damn.
you're telling me that that Detroit can go make a splash in free agency?
Myles
They
Garrett.
already have,
Myles
and they
Garrett.
will.
Myles Garrett. Go from one poverty franchise to the other.
Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson would be
And Zadarius Smith.
oh,
That's
that would
what I'm saying.
that would be stupid.
It's gonna
That
happen.
would be so stupid.
It's gonna
And
happen.
Aiden Hutchinson could learn. Oh, that would be absurd. That'd be my favorite spot. Like I said, Minnesota at 58, Arizona at 63 million. That's interesting. Chicago at 64.
Dang.
Dude. Chargers little hardball action. It's 65. And
Dang.
here's the team that I haven't mentioned. Washington.
That's crazy.
80 million.
Who are they paying? Like realistically, you look at the roster and you're like
Terry?
Terry, and that's
Their
it.
their defensive lineman. Isn't it Deron Payne, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's it.
That's it. But like at the same time, he's
That's it.
not. It's Deron Payne. Like it's not.
He's getting paid a good amount.
Yeah, but it's not like. We're
Not Chris Jones.
exactly like it's not
Yeah.
top of the market. Like it's
So
still
80
really good.
million. 80 million.
80.
And you have Dan Quinn sitting there. That's a team that
Well,
I mean was one game away from the Super Bowl. They got pumped, but they were one game away for the Super Bowl.
Miles.
And they've got a rookie quarterback on if Miles goes to Washington or Philly.
If he comes to the division, I will be sad. It's not gonna be the Cowboys or Giants. Let's put it like that.
The Las Vegas Raiders, 92 million available, and then number one cap space is the New England Patriots with 122 million.
Or they could go sign T. Higgins. You never know.
The Pats is probably where T. Higgins is going to go. Let's be
he
realistic.
could get
here.
a bag.
Let's be realistic here. That's probably where they're going to go.
Drake
You know
is
what I
good.
mean? Like,
he needs a quarter, or he needs a receiver. Would you not want that if you're T? You're like, dang, I like what Drake's doing this year. Like, I want to go and see if I can be a part of that, and go get to, get coached by Mike Vrabel. Like, that's not a bad place to be. It's not a bad destination.
I think you're going to run the ball though a lot with Vrabel.
You
know
are?
what I mean? He builds
You
it off.
are.
I mean, Vrabel was the creator of Derrick Henry.
He did.
Like,
he did.
aside from obviously Derrick Henry being the creator himself, right? But like, I mean, he flourished in Tennessee, dude.
Mhm.
Flourished.
That's why he's the king.
That's interesting with Tennessee. Now that I'm thinking about that, that's interesting. Aaron Jones is a free agent. I wonder if he kind of maybe sneaks in there in Tennessee,
Oh,
or not Tennessee,
bring him over to New England,
New England. That's what I mean. Sorry.
or maybe
New
draft
England.
it, or just shock the world and go and get like really good running back or something like the beginning of the second. You know what I mean? Just say screw.
You
it.
could. You could. Well, that's a good segue. It's a good segue. NFL draft talk. We just talked about free agent. We just talked about the cap. We just talked about all that stuff. What teams realistically in the top of the NFL draft are going to be going for quarterbacks, and what quarterbacks are they going to be going for? Right? Like,
Right.
for me, you're sitting there at number one. Should have had this pulled up. The draft order is for some reason went away on my screen. No big deal. But for me, I guess I'll start it off while it's getting pulled up because my internet's being bad. There's not guys that are Trevor Lawrence. There's not guys that are Caleb Williams, right? Like, you can argue for me, Cam Ward's not even a top 10 guy on my board. Like, he's not.
No,
Shador's not even in the first round for me. And then after that, you have a massive drop off. So for me, it's a bit challenging because, like, yeah, you have Shador, like I said, you have Cam Ward, like I said, and you have the next guy. Here he is. There we go, Dylan Gabriel. Like,
I like Dylan.
I like Dylan, but that's a guy that's third. Like, you could argue like beginning of the third, end of the second round. Then you have Jalen Milroe. That's like maybe he's a top 100 player, but that's like
I
the
wouldn't
fourth,
touch him.
fifth, right? So like the quarterbacks are not loaded, right?
Not at
So
all.
realistically, you have two quarterbacks I think that are Cam Ward. I think should go in the first round, and I think Shador Sanders will go in the first round, right? So I think they're both going to go. I think Cam should go, and I think he will. But I think Shador will go as well. Now, the teams that need a quarterback, I mean, I know we just talked about the biggest one in terms of salary cap as well, the Giants, right? Like, do the Giants go out there and pull a quarterback? Could
They're
you see the
number one,
Giants
right?
doing that? I
Their
mean,
number one overall pick.
no, the Giants aren't number one. The Giants or Tennessee Titans are number
That's right,
one.
it's
But
Tennessee.
I'm going to be honest, the Tennessee Titans, I'm going to pretty much lock that up with Travis Hunter. I don't see the Tennessee Titans taking like Cam Ward or Shador Sanders over
Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter.
He's
Yeah.
you could absolutely shore up your wide receiver core. All you need is a quarterback. You know what I mean? And if you can go and sign a guy like Kirk Cousins, you know what I mean, or like Aaron Rodgers, if you're Tennessee, and then you go and put in Travis Hunter. You already have Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard. And you're just go up. And I think Tennessee's not in a bad spot. You know what I mean? Obviously, a quarterback is a tough position in the NFL, but like they're going to have a major decision. But it's hard to pass on the Heisman winner, generational talent. Do you think they're going to? It's just, what are you going to do with them? It's the tough question. And I know a lot of teams are just going to shy away from it because they don't want to answer it.
You go, yeah. Do you play him at wide receiver? Do you play him at corner? I think he probably plays. I mean, it's tough because it's like
He wants to play both.
he probably plays some package at corner, or sorry, some packages at wide receiver. But I mean, if you look at his like statistically, like I don't think he's the best corner in college football. I also don't think he's the best wide receiver in college football. But he's the most athletic player in college football, and he's a Heisman winner. So you got to have a coach that knows what to do with him. I want to answer your previous question. There are two teams in this draft that, in my opinion, are going to take a quarterback, and it's going to be pick 2 and pick 3. Your team in number 2, Cleveland, is going to be the first team that takes a quarterback, in my opinion. I think Cam Ward probably goes there, and then the Giants are sitting right there. I think that Shedeur in New York just makes too much sense. So for me, that's it. That's the end of the quarterback. Like that's it for the first round. Like realistically, that's it. Then you look toward, honestly, I don't even think the second. You look toward the third for Dylan Gabriel, but a quarterback.
Do you think Dylan Gabriel goes in the third?
No, I don't.
Okay.
In terms of where I have him ranked, yes.
That's crazy.
He's end of.
I'd say he's at least a second round guy.
I have my draft grade on him is and it's not a fair draft grade, but it's a cop out. I'll say that it's a mid second round to early third round. That's what I have on Dylan Gabriel. So I can get out of it. You know what I mean? Be like, no, I had a second on him. No, but for me, that's the third ranked quarterback, dude, in my book. And it's like, that's not a deep quarterback class at all. And so if you're a quarterback needy team, which Tennessee is for sure, they definitely are, but unless Cam Ward goes out there and has one hell of a pro day and just breaks every record at the combine, oh wait, Travis Hunter's already going to do that. Right? Like you just can't pass up on a Travis Hunter. So for me, that's what I kind of think the quarterback teams are. Now, Dylan Gabriel showed some stuff. I'm not going to lie. Like he definitely showed some stuff. He showed some flashes, but to take a guy like that, like a second round pick, a quarterback, that means he's starting pretty soon. Maybe not that season, but maybe that next season. And I don't know if I'm comfortable enough saying that, but hell, I got the last Oregon quarterback wrong.
If you double dip, if you're Tennessee, let's say, or just a team that has a high round, top 3 pick, let's say, the first 3 teams, which is Tennessee, Cleveland, and the Giants, right? Do you not go and draft like a skill position, like an Abdul Carter, a Travis Hunter, you know what I mean? And then and take your quarterback in the beginning of the second with Dylan Gabriel.
Abdul Carter, that's a big guy. That's a guy that I think they can contend for number 1. And Travis Hunter for me, like Abdul Carter that's my pick. Stupid.
He's stupid.
That's your pick for number 1?
If you're Cleveland, sorry, we're getting into this, but if you're Cleveland and you let Myles Garrett walk, you do not go out of that draft board without Abdul Carter on your team. Or I don't care, even if Myles stays, you got to put Abdul Carter on that team because there's no other, like, come on, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
there's no way.
There's no way you don't pass. There's no way you pass on Abdul Carter after Myles Garrett leaves.
Well, think about it. You're potentially passing on Cleveland, a Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. Because if Abdul Carter gets taken first, Travis Hunter's going to be just sitting there.
What are you going to do?
I don't know.
If Abdul Carter goes first, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad pick if you're Tennessee. Again, and the thing is, there are a lot of, like you were saying, second round, third round guys. I mean, Will Howard is sitting out there, national champion, obviously counts for something. Dylan Gabriel had a fantastic year. Do you not take a chance on a guy like that if Cam Ward is, he's super raw? Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, you're not super duper sure if they can compete at the next level. You know what I mean? So
you nailed it. Good call there with Will Howard. I totally forgot about Will Howard. What does this season do for you for Will Howard? Right? Like that's a guy.
If you're Cleveland, go
probably third to. I mean, if you think about it, if you think about Ohio State quarterbacks that had Will Howard definitely had more than a one and done season. Remember Cardell Jones?
Yeah, there's not a
good
track
guy.
Record. There's like 0 good Ohio State quarterbacks not named CJ Stroud.
Yeah, not the best track record there. So for me, you know,
you can't scout
that's
the
a
helmet
guy.
though. You can't scout the helmet.
No, no, of course not. But for me, that's a guy that did make throws. But at the
Mhm.
same time, that wide receiver core is the best wide receiver core in all of college football. But hey,
I agree,
if
but
you
there were some dimes.
there were some times. I'm not going to take it away from the kid. For me, he's between. We've talked about him, but I don't know, third. Like I would say third as well. But here's the thing: like we're talking first round, beginning of first round quarterbacks. There's no way that Dylan Gabriel or Will Howard sneaks into the first round. There's no way. And if they do,
I think Dylan could, but that's like a team at the very end, you know. But
well, I mean,
it depends on who's picking, I guess, right?
and also to be fair, like Lamar Jackson got picked at the end of the first round, right? Like so many quarterbacks have gotten taken, at the end of the first and or not even in the first round. So for me, I think that Cleveland goes. I don't know. They could go defensive lineman there, but I think that you have to potentially just try to keep going and just kick in the bucket and go for Cam Ward. I mean,
Just what do you
I'm
get?
not saying it's going to work, but
what do you like? If let's say you do draft Cam Ward, let's say it's a quarterback, regardless if you're Cleveland. What does this team give you offensively that you're so sure that a quarterback will succeed in that offense? You know what I mean? Like how
same thing to
what like you're not putting him in a good position at all. Like Caleb Williams, when he was drafted, he has probably the best position a young quarterback could have. Even
It's got Judy.
he's got Judy. That's it, man.
Look,
Nick Chubb, I
I'm
don't even
just
know
saying-
if he's going to play football next year. The offensive line looks like it's on the downturn, even though Wyatt Teller's still pancaking people, man, and he's just not doing it this last year. But like, offensive line I don't even know if they're good anymore. They got rid of Amari Cooper, and Jerry Judy's leading the way, and he looks like he's pretty dang good, but he's catching passes from Jameis. And like, you already got a rookie in there with DTR. I don't think he's the future moving forward, but do you go out, get Abdul Carter, go out and get a guy that you can sign, and then go and get Kirk Cousins? You know what I mean?
If it were me, yes. Yes. If it were me, yes. But if it's Cleveland, I don't think they're gonna pass. I mean, they could, but you're letting Myles Garrett walk, the best pass rusher.
I'm not saying anyone wants this to happen.
Fair point. And he's literally asked LeBron if he could leave, and LeBron said yes. So here you go, King.
If LeBron,
you know what I mean? But
if LeBron gives his blessings, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do.
yeah. So for me, that's what I could possibly see happening. But then after that, you don't have a ton of teams sitting there that are going to be trading up to get those guys, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong. Some team could trade up and get Shador and could completely believe the hype. But for me,
Vegas.
Shador's a second round guy. Cam Ward's my only first round quarterback that I have. He's the only first round quarterback that I have. And then Dylan Gabriel, like I said, I forgot Will Howard. They're sitting there in that range. And then Jalen Milroe for me is going to be sitting there at the end of that range. And then now you have to put in Quinn Ewers, because Quinn Ewers declared for the NFL draft as well, right? So that's another guy that's going to get taken 3 to 5. I'd be pretty. I actually wouldn't be shocked if Quinn goes 3.
I don't know if he goes above any of the other quarterbacks that you said. Maybe I think Will Howard could go below him, but if he goes above
Jalen Milroe
or Gabriel,
you'd be shocked at that.
I think I just think Jalen Milroe has a unique skill set. You know what I mean? Obviously, he's played in big games, and a lot of NFL GMs are going to like that. And Quinn Ewers did not have a graceful end to the season. We'll kind of put it like that.
No, but if you look at last year's tape, not this season, but the last season's tape, especially in that last game of the season, goodness. I mean, that's one of the best quarterback performances I've ever seen. Those throws, I remember watching that in I think I was driving from California to Texas. I watched that in some hotel in New Mexico or Arizona. That was Steven looking so good.
Yeah.
Just looking so good. And I can see it on that little bitty hotel TV.
Ask me a question though. Who gets drafted first? Quinn Ewers or Jalen Milroe? I would put it on Jalen Milroe just because Alabama, you know what I mean? Dual threat guy, had a lot of big games, had a lot of not great games.
Maybe those are some guys though.
I don't know.
Right? Maybe those are some guys that you can invest in the third to honestly probably 5th round. You can invest some picks in there, right? Depending upon.
But they're not going to go with 5th. That's the thing.
Do what?
They're not going to go in the fifth though, because teams like them, value them more. Like I think absolute minimum
dude.
fourth and third.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yes, because teams value the quarterback so much. Same with tackle, right? Like same with tackle, you'll get so many tackles taken, so many quarterbacks taken. But I'm pretty shocked at some of the quarterbacks that fall to like the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, even the seventh round at times,
Yeah.
like that I've seen in the past. You know what I mean? I've seen crazier stories, but those are all the guys pretty much that we named. So I think you're probably right. And here's the thing the last point I'll make on it is that if there's a run, meaning if Dylan Gabriel gets taken the top of the second, everybody goes, oh shit, presses that button,
Exactly.
and then the quarterbacks start to go a little bit faster. So if there's not a run, then I could see it happening. One of those guys ends fourth, maybe fifth. Who knows?
And another team we're not talking about that does need a quarterback, it's Pittsburgh. And they are not, they're not in a good draft position. We'll put it like that. So, and they already have come out and said that they're not bringing back Russell Wilson. So does that mean you're bringing back Justin Fields? I don't think so. I wouldn't bet on it. He may be
if he
there,
doesn't,
but I don't think he might not be starting.
If he doesn't take a lot, I think maybe they do. But that's a good potential pick there. But the thing about Pittsburgh that you got to respect about Pittsburgh and the way they've drafted under the Mike Tomlin era, they do not reach. They have guys on their board, and that's who they go for, right?
Kenny Pickett.
At the time. Look,
if you look at my draft board, end of the first round.
If you look at my draft board, I nailed it more than a lot of people did, right? Usually do. So we got the pod typically, but
they like stories.
Let's be real here.
Pittsburgh.
You know what I mean? Like I called that one from a mile away, and that was a reach at that point because of all the guys that had gone before, right?
I mean, it's true. They like stories. It's kind of what Pittsburgh. They like to draft the big name guy. You know what I mean? Let's go get Najee Harris. Let's go get JJ Watt's younger brother. Let's go get, Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh guy. He's been training in the facility his entire career. Let's get him on the actual team. You know what I mean? It's kind of like,
and then cut him.
So it's,
and then he goes and kneels and wins the Super Bowl. No big deal.
He does.
Kneels. Kenny Pickett at the end with the knee. How does that feel? Chiefs. All right. That was good. That was good. Next week, we still got basketball, but football wise, next week we're gonna hit the defensive free agents, and I don't know. Maybe we'll hit a defensive position. You got me thinking about defensive ends here, so maybe we talk in the draft about defensive ends and Abdul Carter. I don't know. I'm thinking. There we go. But every week we're gonna be hitting NFL draft more and more. Get ready, folks. It's basketball time. It's the end of the episode. It's the last segment. We got Tana's Corner 3. There we go. J.U. Ice. Also, 20 years ago, I think yesterday or the day before, Street Volume 3 got released.
Nice.
So,
nice. I played
shout out. Dude, yeah, those best games. Like, yes, dude.
Was
like,
Volume 3 on PS2? Is that on the PlayStation 2? Let's go look.
Yes.
Because we had 1 and 2. We both had played 1.
It was 100. It was 100% on the PS2. Volume 3 was.
Is that the orange 100%?
Yes.
No, the orange one is the second one, I thought.
No.
Oh, no.
Well, the third one's
the blue one is the second one. Yeah, Volume 3 we definitely had. It's actually going.
The Street Volume 2, NBA Street Volume 2 has Stretch on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then NBA Street Volume 3, I don't remember who's on the cover. And then Street Volume 1, that one, that's the that game's pretty crazy if you go back and play that one.
Yeah, I think I have that one. I definitely played a lot of 2 and 3. I definitely had not played a lot of 1, but I did.
You played 2 the most. Yeah. 2 was the one that we had the most.
Mm-hmm. And then 3's got, I don't know who's on the cover for 3, but it's like the orange one. It's got a 9.4 out of 10. Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. What's wrong?
Okay. Speaking about basketball, not NBA 2K Street. I mean, even though they were just some of the best games of all time.
Davis. That's the person on the cover.
Damn it. I actually had that in my back pocket. I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to. I know. I just didn't want to sound like an idiot. But that's, hey, I sound like an idiot.
We'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, just give me the nod there. All right. I'm gonna rapid fire a couple questions. But first, we got to talk about your boy. You got the Spurs hat on. You got to watch his debut. We made sure to get off the pod so you could watch it. What did you think about De'Aaron Fox's debut, and what do you think about De'Aaron Fox and the San Antonio Spurs moving forward?
I mean, It's interesting. You know, you kind of look at kind of where the Spurs have been, or how the Spurs have been playing. You know, with De'Aaron Fox in the lineup, and it's a lot of figuring stuff out. You know, obviously, it's you look at the end of some of those games too, and that's kind of why you went out and got De'Aaron. You know, the clutch player of the year a couple years back, and you wanted him to kind of get just there are points in which in the Spurs game that the Spurs tend to kind of look like the Spurs of old. You know what I mean? Not the pop, championship winning Spurs, but the Spurs that had DeJounte Murray as their best player. You know what I mean? Not Timmy Duncan after Tony Parker era. All those guys are gone. You know what I mean? The Spurs of past 2014. We'll put it like that. So, you know, how do you get out of that rut? How do you get out of that mentality of just like being able, just lack of defensive movements, lack of offensive production, just a whole lot of nothing, you know, just in terms of that. You bring in more guys. You know what I mean? You bring in more guys. You continue to kind of let those guys determine the culture of the program and continue to let those guys kind of get the ball in those big moments, right? You just want to continue that scoring, continue that production throughout the game. You don't want those moments of lull, you know, where you're just kind of like going back and forth, going through the motions. And I think De'Aaron Fox brings you a lot of that. And I kind of talked about it last episode when before he played, but it just gives you another option offensively that you can kind of sub in when Wembanyama is not on the floor, right? We know this is Vic's team. We know Wembanyama is going to be the centerpiece moving forward for the Spurs for the next 10 years, at least. You know what I mean? We're going to try and develop him. We're going to put pieces around him so that he can play better, right? And then the pieces around him obviously have to be playing well. You know, they have to be talented NBA players. You know what I mean? So what De'Aaron Fox gives you is just the ability to play him on the court when Wemby's not on the court.
What do you think? What do you think about too with De'Aaron Fox? Like, do you think his addition was to specifically like bring him over to the San Antonio Spurs to stretch the floor? Because like you have the biggest, best offensive. I'm not going to say center in the game, but like rebounder. Like I'd argue that Wembanyama is the best rebounder of like all time, right? Like, at this point, like it's him and Hakeem. You know what I mean? But like they can stretch the floor so much because of how fast Fox is. And if you put Wemby toward the floor, I mean, that's just like that combination. You got to think that that was one of the reasons they brought him in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just De'Aaron's like offensive abilities, just in general, like his capability is, it's so great that it's not like, you know, the best in the NBA. He's not going for an MVP this year, but it does, you know, constitute a double team at times. And there were times in some of those games. I mean, this last game he played, he dropped 30. You know what I mean? And it was a quiet 30 because you're just like, oh, yeah, Wemby's doing his thing. Oh, De'Aaron Fox got 30. Oh, that's kind of hype. You know what I mean? So it's just, he brings another, like a higher floor to the team, while also bringing another focal point that defenses have to focus on. Because if you're going to double team Wembanyama, which a lot of times you do when he has the ball and he's near the rim, you have to put probably 4 guys on him before you'll make a stop. You know what I mean? So where are the other guys going to go? If you have a wide open De'Aaron Fox, you know, he's going to be able to get the ball. And if he doesn't have an open lane, he's going to be able to distribute it to a guy quickly because that's kind of how he plays. He's a very fast guy. And he's all around the court. You know what I mean? So not only is he going to be able to do that, but you have another guy of the name of Chris Paul, who is very excellent at doing that as well. You know what I mean? And so he's going to get them going. But a lot of that too is, you know, they have other young guys that they want to develop as well. Devin Vassell, he's been on the team for a couple years. Stephon Castle, rookie this year. Keldon Johnson's starting to get playing well. You know what I mean? Julian Champagnie, excellent shooter. You know what I mean? And Harrison Barnes, we haven't even talked about him. Not a young guy by any stretch of the means, but definitely a role player and definitely a veteran for those young guys. You know, so a lot of what the Spurs are doing are just trying to bring in obviously more talent, but just a lot more faster guards. You know what I mean? Just a lot more guys that can, like you said, stretch the floor, but at the same time give you another point of attack, because you don't want your offense to just be Wemby, because it's shown that Wemby is not, you know, he is an alien, but at the same time, parts of him are human. He has games, he has moments that are like, okay, got it. You know what I mean? It's
the NBA.
It's the NBA. Everyone's really good, you know, and there's moments when Wemby gets posterized. You know what I mean? Let's go climb Mount Wemby, you know, because that's a talent. That's a goal for people. When you play the Spurs, you want to dunk on Wemby, period. Ja did it the first time he did. and it was like
Josh got bunnies though.
exactly.
Josh got unbelievable. He's one of the best dunkers in the freaking game.
He
Josh
is.
throws it down so hard.
But it gives you a lot of versatility is kind of where I want to end it, because I think that De'Aaron Fox is he's a good two-way player. I think defensively he's good, but obviously offensively is where he shines, and he just has that mid-range jumper that I think the Spurs need a little bit. And I think offensively Spurs take a lot of threes. It's just kind of how the NBA is nowadays, and De'Aaron Fox is right there in his 3-point percentage. He's going to be doing just fine, and he's just going to be able to distribute the ball, and he's just going to continue to do that. And learning under a guy like Chris Paul, he's played with him before. He's played with Sabonis his whole career. He knows how to play with a big, and they just want to develop Victor's kind of just his overall offensive capability, his vision, his court vision, just the things that he does well, they want him to do extraordinarily well, and how do you do that? You just get guys who kind of are also at that level. You can't, I'm not saying that Steph Castle isn't like a guy that, you want to put in like right now. He is, but he needs to learn, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to be the primary ball handler at the beginning of the game? It's probably before the trade with CP3, you know what I mean? And he's played well and he's run the offense as well, but CP3 is not going to be there for the next 5 years. Steph Castle probably will. De'Aaron Fox probably will. So you want to develop those two as a tandem. You want to get two guards that are very familiar with each other, that can run the offense when the other one's not on the floor. And that's kind of where I like to see that trade is just multiple guys who can run the offense, that are very good at running the offense. Don't have to be on the court at the same time, because you have guys like Devin Vassell who can go in as shooting guard, who can be on like that first team or that second team, or Keldon Johnson, or Julian Champagnie, who can kind of be that other guard. You don't have to have those two guys out there at the same time. And right now they don't usually start both of them at the same time either. So bunch of rotational guys. De'Aaron Fox is going to be the key piece moving forward beside Wembanyama. They just want to develop that two-man game, get those guys going, and I promise you, when they start getting chemistry, there's gonna be fireworks. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna be able to do so many more things. With De'Aaron Fox's athleticism and his speed, and Wemby's just unique talent at getting to the rim, right? So, I mean, almost every game Wemby plays in, there's a lob, period. In almost every NBA game in general, there's a lob. You know what I mean? To the center, and Wemby's gonna put that down 9 times out of 10. You know what I mean? Because he's just that tall. So it brings a lot of things. Obviously talent, obviously depth, and obviously versatility. But just drive and just better players around Wemby. Just on at a base level, it's just gonna make the Spurs better. That's just pretty much it.
That is a Spurs rant for those Spurs fans. If you've ever heard of them, San Antonio right now, stand up.
They're looking good.
Luka debut. Not,
hey,
like wasn't the craziest, right? Wasn't the craziest. Unfortunately, on the East Coast, it's a 10:30 start time. That's just to start a game at 10:30. I was like, goodness. Did get to see his first points though. Saw the three. It wasn't necessarily like 40-point Luka. Everybody kind of thought he was going to go out there, drop a 40-50 piece. He's just come back from injury. He hasn't played in forever, right? That's going to be fun though. That's going to be a fun one, right? Like with Luka, that's Luka. You know what I mean? And then LeBron. Like, does LeBron have one more kick at the can with Luka here? Who knows? They tried to bring in a center, but the NBA failed a physical and it went back. So now the Lakers have Connect as well. But I don't know. That leads me into, what did you think of the Luka debut? And then after that, we'll talk about some teams from the West that I have a question about. But Luka, what'd you see from Luka? He obviously just coming back from injury, and he's going to be playing with LeBron, but just bright days ahead in LA, and a guy that I'd argue, he's 25, maybe not 10 years, but maybe 8 he's there for. Like Lakers got a guy that's a cornerstone now, and LeBron already was, and Anthony Davis I didn't think was going to go anywhere, but he does. So what do you think with this new look Lakers team with Luka?
It looks good. The good thing about LeBron, the good thing about Luka is they kind of are similar types of players. They like to, get to the rim. They like to put a lot of pressure on the rim in the paint, and they like to kind of pass it off, right? They like to, obviously LeBron is a prolific scorer anywhere on the court, but in this Lakers offense, he kind of likes, obviously, to get other guys involved. He wants his bigs to get involved in the game early. And that's kind of the way Luka plays as well. You look at that not championship run, but finals run, I guess, where they got beat by Boston. A lot of Derek Lively lobs. A lot of getting Derek Lively quick, easy passes, easy points from Luka in open space. Because if you're a defender, right, and you're going up against Luka, what are you guarding? Right, I mean, you're guarding Luka. You don't want him to score an amazing, basket on you. You don't want him to kind of pull up from three, kind of like he did in his first points. You want to put his hand in his face. You want to put pressure on him. And usually that Luka's so prolific of a scorer, when he goes to the the rim and stuff like that, he is kind of that guy that's going to draw a double team. I would say pretty much 9 times out of 10. So that's going to leave another guy open. And Luka is able to get to the balls to them in space for wide open three, wide open shot, wide open pass lane, stuff like that. And now that you have 2 guys on your team that are able to do that pretty much seamlessly, it's going to open up that offense, I think, a lot more. I think you're going to see the ball movement just a lot more in Vegas or in Lakerland in LA. But they're going to have to continue to get their bigs involved. I think Luka's going to do a good job of that, and just continue to play Luka basketball. I think the worst thing you can do if you're Luka in that situation is kind of adhere to LeBron's team, because that's not what Luka did in Dallas. He was the focal point of the offense. He brought the ball up at, every possession, stuff like that. Kyrie would as well, don't get me wrong, but Luka he was the Dallas Mavericks, and he will be the LA Lakers in a couple years. You know what I mean? Right now, I think it's still LeBron's team. You're going to have to be a role player if you're Luka, but continue to play your game, because you can't guard LeBron James and Luka at the same time. It's not something you can do while leaving other shooters not open. So there's a clear mismatch at any point in the game offensively for the Lakers, and I think that's just it with shooters like Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect, Rui Hachimura has started to play even better too. It's just going to be lights out. I really think the Lakers in a couple games, in a couple weeks after this All-Star break, they're going to start getting figuring it out. And I'm so curious to see how this playoff run goes, because I would not want to play the Lakers in a 7-game series. Not with Luka, not with LeBron, because it doesn't matter. One night Luka could go off for 40. One night LeBron can go off for 35,
And that's the thing, right? That's the thing. That's the thing that you nailed. They did lose Anthony Davis was a prolific scorer as well. He was just a slasher, right? And then it just stupid good on the defensive side of the ball. So you're losing that defensive side. That's 100% sure. You're losing that good defensive side with Anthony Davis in the paint. But you bring in a guy that, he can drop 50, dude. There was multiple times where he had 40 points. If he had 30 points, it was it was okay. You nailed it. He was the Dallas Mavericks. So for me, yes, it is LeBron's team, but at the same time, I don't think that that LeBron is.
It won't be for long.
Yeah, and I also don't think that LeBron is 10 years ago LeBron, right? There was a time where LeBron James put Cleveland on his back, and won a championship, practically. I mean, it was him and Kyrie, right? LeBron practically won that championship, right? Just unbelievable. But then he also had help as well. Now, here's the thing. I mean, yes, LeBron's had Kyrie. He had Dwayne Wade. He had Chris Bosh. But Luka?
I don't know if he's ever had a Luka.
I don't know if you've ever had a Luka. That's a top 3 guy, in my opinion, if you're going to start a franchise today. You get Luka Doncic.
Closest guy is D-Wade, in my opinion. Just because how prolific of a scorer he was, he could score from anywhere on the court. But he didn't.
And we're forgetting Anthony Davis.
Yeah, but it's a different type of player, right? Luka's not a big. Anthony Davis played.
Luka's a shooter.
He's a shooter, exactly. He's not. He can play down. He can do the Dirk. He can do the step back one leg from.
He does that,
and he does it well. You know what I mean? And he's a big guy, and he can do that, and he can size up against guys in the paint, and big men. So, he can do it all. I don't really know if LeBron's ever played with someone like that. He's played with very special kind of guys.
let's be real quick just to prove that we're not. LeBron's played in the Olympics, so LeBron's played with literally every single person that we can possibly
Doesn't
think of.
count.
Now that doesn't count. Yes,
He-
I just have to say that.
I did see a
Just have to
stat
say
though. He has never played with Luka before. I did see a
Yeah,
stat.
I
Not
mean-
in an All-Star game. Not anything
Nothing.
like that. Nothing.
Nothing. Well, you know what? I think that I think this was some great basketball talk. And I'm not going to lie to you. I think I may save the questions for next episode.
Okay.
Cuz I did not anticipate you going for 20 minutes on Luka and De'Aaron Fox. This folks right here, this is a we've got ourselves a basketball insider, guys. If he
Hey.
leaves in a little bit and goes and covers basketball, just know he came from this podcast.
Yeah, dude. Shams Sharani gonna take your job. Sorry. Just kidding. No, he's pretty good. I like him.
See his Jimmy Butler, how he was sitting on the chair
His-
afterwards. I was like, that was a
That's
good
tough.
toss.
I mean, this is like his first big NBA free agency, and it might be the
It's-
biggest of all time.
It is, and his screen time, that's crazy. I'm like, whoa,
He's
really?
good.
Like that
he's
much?
he's you can tell that Shams is definitely feeling the pressure a little bit on some of those trades. You know, he goes on air and he's like kind of stumbling his words a little bit, but I think he'll be just fine in a year or two. I like him a lot.
I mean,
think
he's young too.
He's super
What's his
young.
name?
Shams?
His name just got out. No, the guy that was Shams before Shams. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Woj or whatever.
Yeah, he was the guy that did it for years, 20,
Exactly.
30, 40 years.
And that's
Yeah,
gonna that's
Shams
gonna be
is the guy.
Shams. He's gonna be doing it for the next 20, 30 years. So I think everyone, if you watch it and you're like, yeah, he's not as good as the last guy. Well, yeah, no shit. He's been there for like 6 months, and he's got to break Luka to the Lakers. You know what I mean? Like that's a tough job.
Insane. Insane trades. All right. Well, next time if you're listening, we're gonna hit Tanner with what 6 teams are on his short list for a possible championship run. 3 teams from the East, 3 teams from the West,
It's gonna be
and
tough.
who's his mid-season MVP. So tune in for that next week and more NFL draft talk, defensive free agent talk, and whatever the hell else we decide about talking about.
Put
Tanner,
some
it's been fun.
questions. Put some questions down below. You know, we don't get a lot of questions about not football guys. You know, it's football is over officially. So, you know, any NBA, NCAA, hockey guys,
NFL draft.
NFL draft
Big
guys
time.
continue.
Big time.
Please continue, but you know, I like the NBA too. Just don't
Hey,
read baseball
Just
comments.
prove that
Sorry.
you know the NBA as well. So, folks, me and this NBA insider and Tim Duncan's rookie card behind me. We'll see you next week.
Yes, we will go watch the NBA. Actually, this time because there's nothing else on.
Bye bye.